Do you know this? You buy something new and after 1 year you think to yourself, what the hell did I buy? My closet speak that language, but luckily my wrist doesn't. The watch market is huge, and with all the selection it is quite difficult to find the right watch for you, especially if it's your first one. What you love about a watch should complement the other things you love in life. A watch reflects your personality. My name is Felix from Gold Ammer Vintage Watches, and today we would like to give you a few tips on how to find a watch that really suits your taste and budget. We will guide you through the categories that matter, tell you what you need to know before you pull the trigger so that you can still look at your wrist in 20 years with shining eyes and think, I did everything right. As with so many new purchases in our lives, we live in a world flooded with a huge supply. Just a few decades ago, our common hobby of collecting vintage watches actually required us to walk out the door and go from jeweler to buy a new watch. Nowadays, we just sit at our laptop, throw on Google and, in the best case scenario, find the dream reference we are looking for within minutes. Everything we want is just a click away, from our next lunch to our next summer vacation. And as cool and life-affirming as that is, it is easy to get swamped by this oversupply. The good thing is, there's the watch out there for everyone. You can compare buying a watch for the first time with buying a car for the first time. Take yourself back to the time before you bought your first car. You certainly didn't just close the front door behind you and drive to the nearest car dealer with a bunch of money under your arm. Rather, you did your research ahead of time. What can I afford? Which company do I like? What do I need it for? How much space do I need? What color? Should it be sporty or relaxed? Or even, what should the car say about me? And that is exactly the point, because the same applies to vintage watches or watches in general. First, think carefully about your interests, hobbies, style or fashion preferences, likes and dislikes. Are you a sports enthusiast, a businessman, a fashionista, or a guy who likes to have fun? This should affect the type of watch you choose for yourself. For this purpose, I would like to give you the following 7 points along the way. Point 1. Know your budget. First and foremost, you need to know your budget. Sounds stupid, but due to the insane supply and marketing bombardment from childhood, we often tend to open our wallets further than we can actually afford. Some people say the first vintage watch should have the value of a net monthly salary. Others save for years to fulfill the dream of their first Rolex. In my opinion, there is no guideline for this. Everyone must decide for themselves. But set yourself a limit and keep it. Point number 2, the right brand. Now you should consider which company you like best. Watches are statement pieces, first of all in terms of external appearance. I know a few successful businessmen with Porsches in their garage and large collections of Patek and Rolex watches. The funny thing is that these watches are in the safe most of the time and the Porsches were only used on the weekends. The reason for this is the outward appearance. When I ask, I often hear the answer, Felix, I can't go to a customer meeting with a Rolex on my wrist and a Porsche under my butt and negotiate for $200. What I would like to emphasize in this important point is that every brand has also a certain external impact, which you should be aware of. And it's important to note that the brand you choose will, of course, have some influence on the design. Point 3, the perfect size. The next important point is to find the right size for you. One of the factors to consider in choosing a watch is how well proportionate the watch is to your wrist and hand. If it's too big for your wrist, it will stand out and look garish. Too small, and it will look like you're wearing a lady's timepiece. Think about how you felt when you wore clothes you didn't like or that were too big or too small for you. You just didn't feel comfortable, did you? The same goes for watches. Before you start thinking about the design, material, etc., you should first think about the right size of the case and the circumference of your wrist. Most of the vintage watches on the market today have a diameter of 32 mm to 40 mm. More modern watches can be much larger. It is important to know that not only the case diameter is important for the presence on the wrist, but also the thickness of the case and the distance from lug to lug. This Jaeger LeCoultre Reverso, for example, is only 23 mm in diameter, but 39 from lug to lug. That makes a much more imposing impression on the wrist than the 23 mm makes it appear at first glance. The thickness of a watch case can also have a significant impact on the appearance of a watch on the wrist. Here 6 to 8 mm considered rather thin, 8 to 12 mm as average, and 14 to 18 mm is very thick. Basically, the larger the case, the thicker it is. But how do you find the right size? Unfortunately, there's no answer to this question because tastes differ. I have a wrist circumference from 17 cm and my sweet spot for round watches is a diameter of 36 mm. On the internet you can find various lists that my recommended size is 38 to 42 mm. But this is absolutely nonsense. The motto here is, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Try as many sizes as possible. It is not enough to go to a jeweler and put the watch on for 2 minutes. Rather, you should have worn different sizes for an entire day. Borrow watches from your friends or buy a $10 piece on the internet to get a feel for the size and eyeball it. Of course, with this issue, you also need to consider the wrist circumference measurement. If the watch has a metal bracelet, this is extremely important. Because if it's too tight, you have to look for replacement links. Just take a tape measure and wrap it around your wrist above the knuckles. Make sure the tape is neither too tight nor too loose on your wrist before you take the measurement. Point number 4, shoes design and color. As you may know, there are hundreds, if not thousands of different types of watches available. Hand-wound or automatic, gold or steel, bracelet or leather strap, and so on. Not only that, but each one of those watches comes with verifying functions and purposes. As mentioned in the intro, a watch reflects your personality, or rather it should. So ask yourself again, what kind of person you are, what qualities you have. Are you introverted? Choose a classic, simple, discreet watch. Are you an extrovert? Choose something with an unusual case design or a colorful dial. Are you even a little eccentric? Then look for a funky and unique piece from the 70s, like this Hamilton Ventura. If you are interested in technology and mechanics of a watch, choose a complicated chronograph like this Universal Genève Aero Compax. And if you're a history enthusiast like us, you might be looking for a watch with an amazing backstory. It all comes down to choosing a piece that fits your lifestyle and fashion sense. The more the watch fits your characteristics, the longer you will be able to enjoy it. So let's head over to point number 5, occasion. Like a belt, a wristwatch is a small accessory that can either ruin or enhance your outfit. When and where do you want to wear the watch in future? Will it be on your wrist for special occasions? Or will it accompany you to the work every day? Or do you need a robust watch for sport activities? So imagine a man in a tuxedo at a black tie event. He has attitude and style that attracts everyone's attention. He casually raises his hand to check the time on his 45mm Hublot with rubber strap, and the magic is gone. This is the power of a wristwatch. So next we come to a point that is for me one of the most important of all those mentioned. Don't listen to others and don't follow trends. We are all influenced, consciously or unconsciously, by our outside world. By outside world, I mean people who surround ourselves with, such as friends and family, but also the media. Nike or Adidas, iPhone or Samsung, Rolex or Audemars Piguet. You would be shocked at how much mind control takes place in our corporate-controlled culture. Television, computers, Facebook, etc. People instinctively mimic their idols in order to survive. And brands know how to put that to good use. Hence our appeal. Remain an individual. Choose what you enjoy and what you really like in life. Do not orientate yourself on what your idols show you, but go through the previous 5 points carefully. Listen to yourself and buy what you really burn for and not to impress others. Finally, point 7, enjoy the experience. Please do not forget with all the mentioned points that returns always remain an option. Shopping for watches doesn't have to be scary. Just go to an authorized dealer or even shop online for new or used watches. Think of it as a learning experience and don't be afraid to ask questions. Usually, sales staff and online dealers are happy to help and give some guidance. As long as you buy from a serious source, you should remember that returns are always possible. If you really don't like your new piece, a return or exchange is usually just a few minutes away. So set yourself a limit. Study the manufacturers, find the right size for you, compare different designs and case shapes. Think about who you are and where and when you want to wear the watch, and don't let anyone tell you what to do. And if you need a little more support for buying your next watch, check out our vintage watch buying guide, The Golden Rules. That should be for today. We hope to make the step to the first or next watch a little easier for you, and we'll be happy to welcome you again in our next video.